former East Orange City Administrator, and is now working to expand college success. Up next on the Giblin Report. Welcome to the Giblin Report. I'm Assemblyman Tom Giblin, representing the 34th Legislative District, which includes Clifton, East Orange, Montclair, and Orange. On today's show, I will be co-hosting with my Chief of Staff, Lolita Cruise, and also I'd like to welcome our special guest, Reginald Lewis, the Executive Director of the Chad School Foundation located in Newark, New Jersey. Welcome, Reggie, to the Giblin Report.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay. Reggie, you made a transition from government to the nonprofit sector. How long have you been doing this work with the Chad School Foundation? And maybe just tell us a little bit about what the work involves.
Sure. I've been with the Chad School Foundation for 5.5 years now. As you can see, I'm a lot less stressed from having left government. The Chad School Foundation is an education policy and advocacy organization in the city of Newark. Our aim is to improve conditions in public schools serving disadvantaged students. So we are no longer a school. We no longer provide instructional services. Both the Chad School and the Chad Science Academy closed in 2005. However, we reemerged in 2010 to serve as an education foundation to carry on the legacy of the schools by expanding college access and supporting policy efforts to improve Newark schools.
Where's the funds derived for the Chad School Foundation?
So we're fortunate to have resources, reserves that resulted from the transfer of assets from the former Chad schools. And we also have real estate property in the city that's leased to a local charter school.
That used to be on 9th Street in Newark.
That's still on South 9th Street.
That's what I thought. Lolita Cruise is my Chief of Staff, and she's with me today. And she's worked with me for the last 7 years, and like yourself, she came from the corporate sector, and she's been working in government. You know Reggie a long time, right, Lolita?
Well, I met Reggie. I think Reggie has a background. We have some mutual friends that live in the city of East Orange. But yes, I know of Reggie. I just met Reggie formally through Mrs. Willis, and also from interviewing him for this, preparing him for this taping.
Any specific questions you want to ask of Reggie?
Well, I wanted to ask him about the Chad School. The foundation. How can you expound upon the foundation's current work?
Sure. So our program portfolio today primarily consists of two areas. One is our Chad Policy Roundtable, in which we bring together local stakeholders who care about the quality of public schools. We expose them to research and data on promising strategies that could potentially improve educational outcomes in our schools.
Who would be those stakeholders?
Local elected officials, school district administrators, school teachers, but also parents. Anyone who cares about the quality of our public schools. So that's one part of our portfolio. The other is our Chad Scholars Program, in which we're very proud of. The Chad Scholars Program provides 4-year, $10,000 scholarship awards to high-achieving, economically disadvantaged students from the greater Newark area.
And how many kids would be involved right now with that $10,000 grant?
So we started our program. We issued our first award in 2011. We now have about 11 or 12 kids in the program. Our first graduate just graduated this past May from Syracuse University. We will graduate 2 more students this upcoming May. So it's still a new program, but we've got a number of students who are going through the program, benefiting both from the scholarships, but also mentors, and also summer internship opportunities that are aligned to their career aspirations.
Lolita's a young-looking grandmother, but she has some grandchildren that are coming down the pike. I know you'd be interested in seeing how this all works because they live in neighboring communities outside of New York, right, Lolita?
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell me about the criteria. How does one qualify, or how does one qualify for the scholarships that CHAD schools sponsor?
So essentially, you should be a resident of Essex County. You should live in the greater Newark area, be enrolled in a public school, public high school, so essentially be a graduating senior. And your enrollment in terms of public schools, that includes both district and charter schools. You should have at least a 3.0 GPA, and then essentially apply. We have an application process, an application that's online, available at www.thechadschoolfoundation.org. The deadline this year is March the 16th, so you want to get those applications in. And then you'll be reviewed by a volunteer scholarship committee. We usually select about 3 to 4 scholars a year.
So how do you market this program? Like, for instance, today we're airing this and our constituency will hear about this, but do you have any other, do schools know about this?
Sure.
Like at schools in Newark, schools in Essex County?
Sure. So first of all, we're grateful to the Giblin Report for enabling us to reach a broader audience of parents and students who are interested in our program. But we do an extensive outreach every year to local high school principals, to leaders of major congregations, so essentially the clergy, but also leaders of community-based organizations and parent organizations, to make certain that individuals are aware that this scholarship opportunity exists in the city of Newark.
So I understand that you gave $10,000. Did you give $10,000 last year to a school? Was it?
So we recently adopted the Eagle Academy in the city
Academy.
of Newark. We provided them a $10,000 grant to support their after-school and enrichment activities. We are also a funder, so we don't have a lot of grants to give out. But in addition to our policy activities and our individual grants that we make to college-bound students, we also provide grants, small grants, to promising schools that are actually making a difference. These are district schools that are actually making a difference in the city of Newark.
Reggie, going all the way back to when the CHAD school was established, what was the intent? And I mean, it has a history to it, and you're carrying on the work with the foundation, but tell us a little bit about the early days, why the development took place.
Absolutely. So the Assemblyman is absolutely right. It has a rich history in the city of Newark. Back in 1969, a couple of years after the disturbances in the city, some very visionary parents and local leaders decided that they'd like to have an alternative to the traditional public school system by creating an Afrocentric independent school for students of color, for the most part. So they started off with a pilot program in 1969, and then that pilot was actually so successful that summer that by 1970 they decided to form an elementary school. So starting with about 700 students, they grew from one building on Clinton Avenue in the South Ward. I believe I got my ward right.
Yeah, that was right.
And then essentially grew to 5 row houses on Clinton Avenue in the city of Newark. And then eventually expanded to South 9th Street, bought that building from the Newark Catholic Archdiocese, and eventually bought a building, the old St. Anne's School on South 7th Street. And so by 2005, CHAD had grown from a pre-K to a 12 grade, so essentially serving students in grades pre-K through 12 as an independent Afrocentric school in the city of Newark.
But also real estate. The key component here, you said they bought these buildings, so they
purchased
acquired
these
all these
buildings.
properties.
These properties were
Smart.
acquired. They, as I mentioned earlier, one of the properties was actually sold off in order to create now what's known as the CHAD School Foundation. But it was an exceptional school for a number of years, and we're very pleased that we really have the opportunity to carry on the legacy of this important institution.
Why is it so
now.
important as far as continuing this legacy? I mean, with many of the students who've gone through either the CHAD school or been beneficiaries of the CHAD School Foundation, do they come back, so to speak? In other words, either supporting you or talk about their success or, use them as role models
The
for other kids in the community?
The alumni.
So two-part question. The first is, clearly, given the work, the courage, the vision of our founders, who essentially sacrificed their own material well-being so that thousands of students could have a better chance at life. Clearly this is a great way to realize their dreams in terms of expanding college access, but also supporting policy activities that attempt to strengthen the Newark Public Schools. So that's the first part in terms of the significance of carrying on the legacy. In terms of alumni, we're reaching out to I run into Chad alums every day with Supermarket, Gateway. So we are making an attempt to increase our database to make certain that they're involved in the Scholars Program, be it as mentors, supporters perhaps, but also as participants in our Chad Policy Roundtable.
Let me ask you a question about the Education Foundation and the policy focus, and particularly in Newark. Why is it important to have an African American Education Foundation with the policy focus in Newark?
Right. So the demographics of the city school-age population show that the majority of our kids, they're students of color, African American and Latino. And so we deem it critical to have an African American voice that essentially weighs in on the direction of school reform, but education policy in general. Our voice is essential today more than ever.
So, Reggie, you work with both the traditional Newark public schools, and then I assume you have a similar relationship with some of the emerging charter schools in the city.
Absolutely. So we promote high-quality public schools. Charters are also public schools. We are about expanding high-quality options for all of our kids in the city of Newark, and that necessitates a partnership with both the district schools as well as our charter schools.
And the issue of fundraising, I know you mentioned about sale of some real estate, but that doesn't kind of cover the gap. Do you have some current activities planned for 2016?
Absolutely. So we are pleased that in May, on May 25th, we will host our 4th annual Chad Scholars Awards reception, which will enable us to honor the 2016 Chad Scholar cohort. It's also going to be an opportunity for us to recognize those who have served our community in a number of ways. A distinguished educator will be named.
I think I know who that is. I mean, it's not a secret, is it?
It's not a secret.
Okay, I think Mrs. Amzella Nelms.
We're so
like
pleased.
My godmother. She's like my pseudo mother.
I think she's the godmother of many students
yes,
in the city of Newark.
Yes, she is an icon for sure.
She was a wonderful educator in the city of Newark for a number of years, retired as the deputy superintendent for the Newark School District. She will be recognized as the 2016 Distinguished Educator. We will also recognize individuals who've done outstanding work as corporate citizens in Newark and in the area of public service. We may be calling on Assemblyman Giblin as well.
How can you get tickets how can you get tickets to this?
So if you're interested, 973-622-1061, extension 2. You can ask for our event planner, Catherine Willis. We certainly look forward to having as many individuals involved in this program.
What's the date again?
May 25th. It will be at the Robert Treat Hotel in the Crystal Room.
Okay.
Reggie, you've written a lot of articles, I've noticed in recent times, about educational matters, especially affecting, the kids in settings in Newark and East Orange and Orange. And, one of the areas is about, the acronym, with the PARCC test. I know you know it. I know maybe not as much as you, but for the benefit of our viewers, maybe tell us a little bit what the mindset was with the PARCC test and what your viewpoint is as far as, how this is impacting the students that you deal with.
Sure. So PARCC stands for Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. It is New Jersey's new state assessment. So it replaces the old NJ-ASC and the HESPA, which, by the way, is no secret to many. These were not the most rigorous tests. PARCC is aligned to Common Core. These are new national standards that attempt to get all of our kids college and career ready.
Some of the schools have opted out, right?
I think parents have opted out.
Oh,
Schools
the
have
parents,
not.
that's right. Oh, the parents have opted out. They can-
So one of my recent op-eds that you're referring to was done in partnership with the Vivian Fraser of the Urban League, in which we essentially took the position, which we still believe is a position in the best interest of our students, that rather than fight the PARCC test is here. It is an assessment that's here to stay, that we all should do the best we can to make certain that our students are equipped to be successful on PARCC. I want to add, Assemblyman, that New Jersey is one of about 40 states that entered into a process that led to us now having Common Core standards. There's been some controversy about some states opting out, if you will, or retreating from that. But
Why would they want to even do that?
Well, and this is again your world. I think there's a lot of politics involved. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the necessity of having rigorous standards that, in fact, ensure that our kids are college and career ready and able to compete in a global economy. So New Jersey adopted those standards or this policy approach 5 years ago, and now the PARCC is a test aligned to those standards that gives us an opportunity to know if in fact our kids are actually learning and meeting those expectations.
I'm curious with the Chad School Foundation, do you get involved in after-school activities or tutoring programs or any summer programs, to try to, let's be frank with some of the kids that, we work with, need special attention to, help them move up the educational ladder. So, I mean, are you feeling those are of value?
They certainly do. However, we are not a direct service provider, so we are an education policy and advocacy organization. We have supported after-school and enrichment programs. Again, it's in response to one of Lolita's earlier questions, the Eagle Academy, part of our grant, part of that $10,000 grant supports after-school programs. It also supports a PARCC Academy, if you will, that allows students to come in on Saturdays and work with teachers and receive extra help and support in areas where they may need assistance in increasing their literacy proficiency. And we support and work with the mayor's summer youth employment program, essentially serving as an employment site for the current mayor of Newark, Mayor Baraka. We're pleased that his Office of Policy, Ty Cooper, and her shop assisted us in becoming a site so that we can offer CHAZ scholars, but also other students who are in the pipeline to become CHAZ scholars an opportunity to have a rich employment opportunity during the summer.
And where would they find out about this? I mean, is this where are you operating your foundation from these days?
So we're actually at 40 Clinton Street on the corner of Clinton and Mulberry. But www.thechadschoolfoundation.org has a list of all of our programs and activities in which people can learn more about how to apply to become a CHAZ scholar, but also learn more about the summer employment opportunities
Is the application online?
The application is online. That's exactly right.
And then once they fill out the application, what do they do with it?
Well, again, if you go online, it gives you directions. Essentially, you mail it in to our address, and that will be received by our volunteer committee, and then they'll be notified if they are selected as a finalist.
And there's criteria. Go over the criteria
again. Essentially, you should be enrolled in an Essex County or Greater Newark public school, be it district or charter. You should be a graduating senior, so a senior in good standing. That's a GPA of at least a 3.0. And then essentially fill out the application, which includes an essay, and then the process goes from there.
So should an interested scholar, so when should they begin? Should they begin in their junior year, or because the money that they're looking for to go to college, how long is that process?
So that's a very great question, because we have, as a foundation, along with other partners in the city, tried to really encourage through our outreach efforts that all of our parents and students begin to think about college before their senior year.
Right.
And so we encourage prospective candidates to think about our opportunity, but also other opportunities. We list scholarship links for other organizations on our resource page. So we encourage people to think about college as early as their sophomore year. In some cases, as early as the 8th grade, because it is an extensive process in terms of trying to get a better understanding about your needs as a student, the kind of college environment that actually best meets your needs in establishing the right fit, but also obviously getting ready, taking either the SAT or the ACT and filling out that FAFSA, the federal financial aid form, which is not the easiest thing to do.
Right.
Reggie, the transition from government, to the nonprofit sector, like with your work with the Chad School Foundation, things were kind of hectic in East Orange. When you're the city
certainly
administrator, you get things thrown at you. I mean,
Absolutely.
fast and furious. So, I mean, is it a little bit more satisfying that you feel you're making a positive role in terms of trying to move
Passion.
some of the young leaders? I mean, you're trying to develop a young cadre of, I assume, African American leaders, for the future. So it's you feel like you're getting some of your goals accomplished.
First of all, it's very gratifying to be able to directly work with young people, but also to work on the policy efforts. And it takes a lot more time, as you know, as a legislator, to pursue policy objectives. Not the easiest thing to do, but also quite worthwhile. But I would say that being a former city administrator, in which I had the responsibility of service delivery for 70,000 residents in my hometown, it clearly prepared me for some of the policy battles that I'm engaged in today. And certainly my work in public service, I would say, was also rewarding. I don't miss the phone calls at 3 a.m. about water main breaks on Main Street or 3-alarm fires, but I feel very fortunate to be able to bring those experiences to the Chad Foundation.
As far as you said you had some policy issues that you're trying to prioritize. What would they be for the benefit of our viewers, or is there any way any of our viewers could help in this effort? Is this state legislation, federal legislation, policy matters of maybe the Department of Education, or what maybe list the more significant ones that you're trying to work on?
Great, excellent. It's on all levels, Assemblyman, local, state, and federal. If you go to our website, you'll notice that we were among the first to post the news about the fact that the president signed the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which was prior to that known as NCLB. And now it's the Every Student Should Succeed, ESSA. I'm getting that acronym somewhat wrong. That is the right acronym. And so we make certain that all of our constituents are aware that federal policy affects what we do here at home. Certainly on the state level, I don't need to tell you that the work that happens through the Assembly and Senate Education Committees is also vital for us to track. And then more locally at home in Newark, we've got a number of different views about how to make our schools better. And so we are quite vigilant about ways in which we can offer objective information as a more credible, independent organization in the city, to make certain that people think about what's in the best interest of students versus, say, taking sides, if you will. Pretty dynamic work.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for about 5 years.
5.5 years now.
Can you really measure your success? I mean, do you see it with some of the students who
I think that's a great question.
encountered with? I mean, is it too early?
No, I think that's a great question. We have only been at this for about 5.5 years, but if you think about our work on the policy side, in addition to submitting these op-ed pieces to offer our views on different education policies and activities, we can boast about the 3 major policy roundtables we've held in the city, which brought out hundreds of people to think about various issues. Our first roundtable involved a case study of a teacher-led school turnaround effort in the South Ward.
Which school was that?
That was the Brick Avon Academy. And so we brought out people because we wanted people to understand that it is possible to work in schools that have chronically underachieved and to get some results. Our second roundtable produced a policy report on special education, in which we examine best practices taking place in classrooms throughout the Newark School District. And then most recently, we sponsored a roundtable on Black and Latino male achievement, in which we promoted different strategies and ways to make certain that boys of color can be more successful. In all of these instances, we were able to not only bring out individuals from the community, but also directly engage the Newark School District on different ways in which they can modify their approaches to working with our schools. On the scholarship side, by this May, we will have awarded nearly $200,000 in scholarships.
That's great.
To local college-bound seniors. And so we're very proud of the work we've been able to do in just 5.5 years.
If you could remind our viewers how to reach out and contact the Chad School Foundation, maybe you could do so at this time, maybe the physical location, if there's a phone number or even an email address.
Sure. So we are located at 40 Clinton Street. That's Suite 200.
That's Newark, New Jersey.
That's Newark, New Jersey. We're right downtown on the corner of Clinton and Mulberry. You can visit us on our website, www.thechadschoolfoundation.org. And you can feel free to call us at 973-622-1061.
And about your upcoming fundraiser, I think that's important. I
Your
know
date.
that the date and location, and if you have any honorees that you're thinking about, I know you maybe still that's a work in progress. So maybe you can kind of mention that to our viewers.
So May 25th from 6 to 8 p.m.
It's an important date.
That's
an
that
important
is the
date.
day.
That's the date. May what?
May 25th at
Location.
the Robert Treat Hotel in the Crystal Room, where we will recognize the 2016
And my
Chad
favorite.
Scholars and Lolita's favorite godmother, former Deputy Superintendent of Schools, Anzella Nelms, will be recognized as the 2016 Distinguished Educator. We will also recognize honorees in the categories of corporate citizenship and public service.
Okay, I want to thank you, Reggie Lewis, and I want to remind the viewers that if you have pressing issues that require my attention or any questions regarding current state legislation, you may reach out to me at 973-779-3125, or else you can email me at asmgiblan@njleg, or you can also search my assembly email at assemblymangiblin.com. Thanks for watching the Giblin Report, and remember, if it's an issue to you, it's an issue to me. Thank you, Reggie Lewis from the Chad School Foundation, and my co-host, Lolita Cruise, my Chief of Staff.